In the last video we were talking about how colour blindness affects me on a daily basis and how it affects me as a quilter when I'm making and designing quilts. If you haven't already watched those videos, I'm going to leave a link in the corner to the playlist so that you can watch part 1 and part 2 of this series. In today's video though, we're going to be talking about specific strategies and resources that I use to help me when I'm making quilts. And I am going to have a free download that is a collection of colourblind accessible quilt colour schemes that you can use in your projects when you're making quilts for your colourblind friends and family. Hi, I'm Tom and I am the Colourblind Quilter, and I'm on a journey to become a better quilter, and I'm sharing my experiences with you along the way. When I first started doing this, I got so frustrated so quickly because I was just like, why can't I do this? It just really annoyed me that it felt like it was so easy for everybody else, but it was just like dragging an elephant up a hill for me. And I still do get frustrated, although not as much these days, but I try to remind myself that this is a skill. I just need to learn this skill. It doesn't necessarily mean that I can't pick nice colour palettes for quilts. I just need the right tools to help me do it. And something that I try to think about when I'm designing or working on quilts is to remember that some of the most famous artists in the world were colourblind, and look at the work that they created. So if they can do it, I can do it. So let's dive in and let's talk about what I do to help me. So I do try not to let this hold me back. I try not to limit myself. It is hard, you know, it's hard not to be negative. But I try as much as I can to just be like, come on, let's do this. Let's try, keep trying. And if it doesn't work, then we can ask for help. And this is the beauty of the quilting community that we have these days with the internet. It's so easy to meet other colourblind crafters and quilters out there, and I've met other colourblind quilters whose work is just incredible. And I've looked at it and be like, wow, are you sure you're colourblind? Like, I could never come up with something like that. And they're always like, yeah, you can. You just need to learn. You just need to know the tools, how to do this. It inspires me and makes me want to work hard and actually learn this. So that's great. That helps to lift my spirits. And it also helps me to realize that it can be done. Something else that is a recent discovery with conversations with other quilters is that color is extremely subjective. But at the end of the day, it could be the most amazing color harmony theory palette in the world, but somebody can come along and be like, I don't like that. And it's not necessarily that it's wrong, it's just that's their taste, they don't like it. So when I pick patterns, I look at how complicated it is, I look at the techniques that I maybe haven't done before or have done before, and then I colour accordingly. Easy quilt, more colours, harder quilt, less colours, so it's one less piece of the puzzle to deal with. And just not being afraid to try, because what's the worst that happens, you know, that doesn't go. Okay, unpick it, do it again, or I haven't cut it yet, so just pick a different colour. So like this quilt here, the original pattern was rainbow with 12 colours. I wanted to make the quilt, it was paper templates, I'd never made them before, this was a pattern test. I was just like, it's going to be too much for my brain to deal with paper templates, 12 different colours, and techniques that I haven't done before. So just keep it simple. And so I had this idea of just very simple like blocks of color, and it's so effective. And I got so many compliments from people like, I love your color choices. And I was blown away because I was just like, wow, people complimenting me on my colors, that's unreal. They must be looking at the wrong quilt. But I was so proud of that I did it. But for example, this quilt behind me, this is a 12 quilt color scheme, and it's in groups of blue, reds, greys and oranges. Yes. And I wanted to push myself and challenge myself with this quilt because it's a very easy quilt to make. So I wanted to push myself on the colours to make the colours harder. This is one of 3 quilts I've made with this level of colours in it. And I got lots of compliments about the colour scheme. And it was a good test. So I have a colour wheel, I have a hex book, I have a quilt colour theory book, I have a couple of other colour theory books that I use, and I have apps that can simulate what this looks like if you had normal vision. For me, are very helpful. And I'll put a list in the description below of all these books and links and things that I use. I try to use tools that help. I try not to get too complicated and bogged down with loads of tools. I try a couple of different things and then stick to things that I find that work. I do find that I tend to reuse colour schemes. So if I've hit on a colour scheme like this, these 3 colours, I've used them before. I tend to keep that in my arsenal of tricks. And I'm trying to build myself up a little library of colour palettes that I know that work. And that takes some of the kind of wariness of picking colors away. I mentioned it already, but I particularly wanted to do pattern testing as a method of building my skills, and it was all a great opportunity to grow and try new things, and to be able to be there saying, hey, what color is that in your pattern? Why did you pick that color? So I think giving myself the opportunity to try things out and to expand my horizons a little bit really helped. I do use color theory. I pick whatever color it is that I'm working on and I use the colors. So if I want a 5 color scheme, I might pick a split complementary scheme and then add in a background. Or if I want a really bold, simple quilt, I might just pick a complementary scheme and then go for like navy and orange. Those kind of things that work really well together, but look really effective still. And I've kind of alluded already, but you know, we live in this world where Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, like you could browse quilts for 24 hours a day for years and never be able to see all the quilts that have been made in the world. And so there's so much inspiration out there. And seeing, here's a fabric designer that's put a quilt kit together using these colors. Oh, they are beautiful. What colors are those? And they're always very helpful to label what the colors are. And you can go away and try them yourself. Or even like just looking at what bundles fabric companies put out. Robert Kaufman, they put out fat quarter bundles of like complementary colors. And I look at that and think, right, okay, so they've put those colors together, so that means they go together. And it gives me ideas, or it gives me a foundation to go off and develop further on what they've done. Another thing I like to do is find free quilt patterns, and I will take them and look at the colors they've picked and trying to decipher what color model they've used, where the colors are in the pattern and why they've picked them, and you know, what does it add to the pattern? Does that color make a secondary pattern? Why is this color here? Like how have they designed it? And then taking a tool like Pre-Quilt and sitting down and trying to colour it myself to see how I get on. That's fun now. That filled me with dread years ago, but now that's actually fun and I enjoy it. And of course, the internet is a wonderful thing, and there are tools out there that can make colour palettes for you. Things like coolors.co, which is a website, and you can totally create colour schemes at random based on the colour theory models. It has simulators that show you them in different types of colour blindness. And what I've discovered is that I can take a colour, so I can say, right, you know, this orange, what color is that in computer code color? And then this tool can go away and say, right, well, here's all the colors that would work with it. And then I can look at it, and it has a feature called the luminance map, which shows you the percentage from 0 being black to 100 being white. And I can see how closely the colors are together. So I can say, right, well, these two colors, there's not enough contrast between them because they're just, you know, 32 and 33%. So that's going to be a problem for somebody, or that's going to be a problem for me. And that's a great tool, actually, if you're not colorblind, for quilt color schemes, for looking for contrast. But I can look at that and I can say, right, that's not going to work. And it's so easy in that tool because then I can say, right, well, I want to go up and down in the shades, and it allows me to do that. But there are hundreds of websites out there that have color palettes, and it's very easy to take them and translate them into fabric colors. Go and do that. Search for like blue color schemes or gray color schemes and see what comes up. So some very specific tactics that I use to help cope. I try and avoid colors that are too close in contrast because that's when I have difficulty differentiating. But if it can't be helped, I will label the crap out of it. I'll write in the selvage the color, I'll put masking tape on it at regular intervals because I've labeled stuff before and cut it off and not realized and then been stuck. So I label everything, post-its, masking tape, in the selvage, everywhere. I even take pictures of it so that I can reference it and say, that's that, that's that, that's that, if I get stuck. That's really important for when you've made a quilt and you've got scrap. You know, the end of a strip when you've been making strip units and you're like, oh, what colours were these? But it's on the selvage. Or taking a square and cut it in half and you only need half, like writing on it what colour it is. And then when I'm sitting one day going through piles of scrap, I can look at it and say, oh, well, that's nautical, that's Windsor, that's Clementine, because it's all labelled. Whereas I have another bag from before I did this, and I look at it and I'm just like, pick out all the colours that I know, and everything else just sits until one day I can bribe somebody to sit for 2 hours and go through them and label them all for me. When it comes to my studio, I have lots of bright lighting. I have an overhead bright light that can do daylight. I have an LED desk lamp that does daylight light, and I've even found myself using like video lights. Lighting is really important. It can make all the difference. I've mentioned software. I use Photoshop, I use Pre-Quilt. It allows me to play with colors really quickly, avoids me wasting money on fabric. I do have a Kona shade card, but on something like Pre-Quilt, I can create colorways so quickly that I can just, you know, change quilt palettes in a click and be able to visualize instantly what it looks like. And that's really helpful software that's capable of doing that. The shade card for Kona is really helpful as well, because as I've mentioned in the previous video, the on-screen representations of fabrics don't always match what comes in your hand because of how the display shows you the colors or how the picture's been edited or the lighting that was used. So having the actual shade card in front of me is really good. Just having little bits of fabric that are labeled with the colors is really, really helpful, especially under bright light. And something that I started doing as well last year was making up a little project sheet. I'm sure this is nothing new, but I write on the project sheet, you know, if the pattern says fabrics A, B, C, D, E, I put little squares of each fabric and say this is fabric A, this is fabric B, etc. And then when I'm in the pattern and I can't tell what color it is, I can look at my project sheet and say, okay, fabric B, that's that one, fabric C, that's that one, that goes there. And that's really, really useful for me. And I just have it on a pin board in my office and I just keep it there for the duration of the project. And often I actually will keep the project sheets afterwards because it has the colors on it. So if I ever end up in a situation where I have scraps that are not labeled, which does happen, I can look at it and say, oh, that matches that, that matches that. That can be a great thing to be really helpful for me. This might sound obvious, but I ask for help. I used to not want to ask for help, and then I went through a phase of always just asking for help with everything. And then I got myself back to the place now where I try and do as much of it as I can on my own, and then if it's getting down to the bit where I just stuck, I just go and ask for help. I'm blessed, I have such great friends and family, and a very patient partner who help, and I sit down and it makes me feel better and I get what I need. And my friend is a graphic designer and a pen and ink illustrator, and I'll leave a link to her profile in the description below because she has some amazing hand-drawn drawings of Scottish wildlife, and she's really good at helping me, and she's really good at saying this is the colour theory why, and it all starts to help me and helps me to learn this and learn this better, and then make me feel more confident about doing it and trying to put myself out there more and do this. So yeah, not being afraid to ask for help seems like an obvious thing, but it does make a world of a difference to me. And also on the lines of asking, you know, if I'm making a quilt for somebody, I will ask them, what's your favourite colour? That can give me the answers. These are some of the things that I do, and I find that as I'm learning, you know, new quilting techniques, I come up with other things that can help me, and sometimes just think on my feet when I'm doing something to help me with a specific situation. But the kind of things that I've shared are things that I do on a regular, consistent basis. So that's it for this third part of my Colourblind quilting series. I really hope that these videos are interesting for you and they're giving you an insight into what it's like to be colourblind and how it affects me on a daily basis and how I cope with it and how I try and continue to create art and work on my quilts whilst having this colourblind vision deficiency. So in the next video, I'm going to be giving you specific strategies and ideas that are going to help you make a quilt that the person's going to love. So if you have a question about colourblindness or colourblind quilting, then please do leave me a comment, as I am going to be doing a follow-up Q&A video where I answer as many questions as I can. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell so you get notified when I release the next video in this series. If you're looking for me, you will find me on Pinterest, Instagram and Facebook at The Colourblind Quilter, or you can find me on my website, colourblindquilter.com. So take care, and I'll see you next time.